Hey everybody, it's the Savvy Gamer here, and today I'm just going to be doing a little bit of a whisper ramble over top of a practice session that I did for a little bit this afternoon in iRacing. We were at Road Atlanta in the Butt Kicker Fixed series, driving the Toyota GR86, putting in some laps. I put in quite a few laps. We did come in to change our tires and refuel a little bit, but as you'll see, we're just kind of doing our out lap right now, just kind of warming up the tires and getting used to the track. I had practiced a little bit earlier in the day as well, put in a few laps just to get the layout down, because I'm not used to the short configuration. I'm used to having a little bit more of the hairpin at the end, but this actually made it a little bit easier. But I also have some chips and dip and just a glass of water, just kind of while I'm rambling on. The dip is actually really good. It's a Doritos dip. It's a Cool Ranch jalapeno. It's really good with just regular potato chips. I was eating some of it yesterday as well. But I figured I could probably have some more of it, as today is actually my birthday as well. So I'm going to put this one up for you guys on my birthday, February 25th. I was born in 1999, so I'm just turning 25. So, what better way to spend part of my birthday than making some content for you guys? And I 100% mean that in like a non-sarcastic, passive-aggressive way. I love making videos for you guys. You guys seem to be enjoying them, so that makes me happy. So I'm happy to make more for you. Yeah, I know it's been a while since I've put up an iRacing video. The last one I put up that had anything to do with racing, I was putting in some laps at Spa in the F1 2023 game. Cruised around in the Ferrari. I'm talking about Lewis Hamilton going to Ferrari for the 2025 season in F1. I'm not really going to talk about that a whole lot, because I kind of beat the horse to death on that one. I made a couple videos about it. There hasn't really been a whole lot more on it, so I figured I'll just lay that to rest for now until something actually does happen. There were a couple of really good laps that I was on, where I had set like a fastest time in Sector 2, and Sector 1, or Sector 3. But then I managed to mess it up, mainly in turns, main turn 7, and kind of going through turn 8. I was having a bit of a hard time, as well as actually turn 1. Turn 1, I was having a hard time maintaining a consistent line through there. Sometimes I would run really wide, or sometimes I would turn it too sharp. Same as turn 3, just because it is a little bit of that blind kind of crest into the turn. Sometimes I found it a little challenging just to maintain the same line going through there. If I put more than, the amount of laps that I did in today, I think I probably put a combined probably 100 laps in today at Road Atlanta. But as you can see here, a little bit of a better run through turn 7 and 8. But I was taking such a narrow line going into turn 8 because I didn't have a flat enough turn into 7 So it kind of had this compound effect. I wasn't giving myself enough space. I wasn't going far enough right leading into turn 7 to give myself a flat enough kind of arc to get a clean apex through 7, and then to be able to come back and have a little bit of a better run through turn 8 to set me up for 9. So I was kind of messing myself up there based on the line I was taking. Eventually I did put in a really good lap. My fastest lap. I never set the fastest lap for the actual session, but my fastest lap that I set was like a 1:06.9, I think. So, a fairly competitive time. Like, I think the highest I sat in the practice session today was P7. Eventually I fell down to P11, just after more people started joining and running more laps. But I was pretty happy with that lap. It was lap 14. I'll run it back at the end of the video so you guys can see it from an outside perspective.
Sector 1 time's okay.
Now, one thing I will briefly talk about for some of you F1 fans, whether you watch Drive to Survive or not on Netflix. If you do, what do you think of this season so far? Or if you've watched the whole thing. It just came out on Friday, February 23rd. But I spent most of the day yesterday, February 24th, watching Drive to Survive. I watched the entire season. Just binge right after the other, every episode. Let me know your thoughts on it. Very briefly, it's Drive to Survive, so obviously there's going to be some drama that they make. I'm glad they touched on, Daniel going, once he left McLaren, going to Red Bull as a third driver, so we'd never see the track, but now they actually explain that, because I feel like people who aren't super knowledgeable into the sport and all that kind of stuff don't understand the difference between a third driver and a reserve driver. So a reserve driver is essentially your driver that's sitting and waiting as a backup. So if something does happen where your driver, or one of the main driver, 1 or 2, are injured or are sick or for whatever reason can't drive in that race or in a session, that reserve driver is there to take their spot and be able to actually drive the car in that situation.
Okay, Jacob, we have to watch these track limits.
And a third driver is essentially more, from how they explain it, and whether this is 100% accurate or not can be left up to interpretation. But a third driver, at least in this scenario, what Daniel was doing was more of a PR kind of deal. Wearing the Red Bull swag, doing commercials and appearances and stuff like that. Which in the show, they said he took it pretty well. But being a former F1 driver at that point, they knew he wanted to get right back into the, he wanted to race again. He didn't want to just be a PR guy. So I'm glad they kind of broke that down a bit. That way people can understand it a little more. touched on him, going to Alpha Tauri now, Visa Cash App, Racing Bulls, and all that kind of stuff. But one thing I was definitely surprised at, and a lot of people were as well, and a lot of people have touched and commented on it online, especially on Reddit, was how they have incorporated Danica Patrick into the whole kind of like narrating, commentating, interviewing process, team, and whatever you want to call it. Which I thought was a little odd, because she raced in NASCAR with her not super star-studded career. She did race in IndyCar for a while and was fairly successful there, but she was never in Formula One. So while I can understand why they have her there as a race car driver, yes, she has the experience and the knowledge of, on a broad scale, being a racing driver. But she has no experience with Formula One. So, I can see why they might have done it. Also, trying to bring awareness and a little more popularity to the sport in the US. Why not put a US racing driver on the show? Sure. But some of the comments she makes in the show, I think, are definitely uncalled for, and some of them very unprofessional. Like saying at one point how Liam Lawson was probably shitting his pants. It's like, okay, you could have probably phrased that a little bit more professionally, and I wasn't a huge fan of having her on the show. They did have Claire Williams, a former, I think she was like the deputy team principal for Williams F1 team, and how she could talk about, from the team principal's perspective and that kind of stuff, which 100% fits, because she was in the team principal role pretty much, at least for the first season or two of Drive to Survive, until I believe she either left or was fired or whatever. But enough about that. I don't want to keep ranting about that, but I just think it was a little uncalled for and a little unnecessary. But it is what it is. I just watched the show. I don't have any control over it. I will still continue to watch the show, whoever they have on there, as long as they keep making it. Because car go fast. So, at this point, we're going to take our first pit stop. Now, I made a bit of a critical error here. Because I really didn't need to change the tires, so I could have set that to not happen. But I made the mistake of completely filling the car up with fuel, which 100% did not need to happen. Because it's adding a lot of weight to the car. So when I'm trying to run some fast laps and some hot laps and all that after I come out of the pit here, it makes it a little more difficult to do, because you're carrying a lot more weight around in the car tire temperatures. If your tires are cold, your grip is going to be lower until you actually get some temperature in those tires. The same as weight in the car. It's going to be heavier, and the car is going to act like it's heavier, and it's going to be harder to control, and you're not going to be as fast when there's weight in the car. Those are actually factors in this simulator. It's not just a game. It's a simulator. People use this and actually, make money from it if they're good enough. The same as Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo is a little more on the arcade sim side of things, but iRacing is one of the best racing simulators out there, in my opinion. Other people have said that as well. Like Jimmy Broadbent, he's one that vouches for it. Also, Jimmy, if you ever see this, I'm gonna give you a shout out. I know this probably doesn't mean a whole lot coming from a dude with like just over 500 subscribers, but thank you for being an inspiration for me in sim racing. Love the content you put out, and you were one of the main reasons that I kept racing, and I'm still racing. But moving on. Yeah, iRacing is super in-depth, detailed. Now the overlay that you see here, where you can see like the relative times, if you look up in the right hand corner, where it shows laps, position changed, my current position, incident points, all that stuff. Bottom right, where's the fuel and fuel calculator, my telemetry in the bottom left, the track map in the top left, and then the vehicle radar on the left. Those are a part of a program called Race Lab, or Race Labs. And they make these and design them, and they update them. And they're continually updating these. Like on the little relatives panel up in the top right, if there's a flag that comes out, it actually shows up as a frame around that. So there's not as much like going on in the screen. Instead of having to have another like overlay put into this screen, it'll just pop up around there. I also have two little black squares at the bottom of the screen. It's hard to see them because it's dark at nighttime, but if you do see them at the bottom, I have those as like blind spot indicators. So if there's someone on my left or right, the left or right one will illuminate in orange. I know some of you may think this is cheating, but in games like Gran Turismo and Assetto Corsa, there are things like this on here. So I don't see it as a way of cheating. I just see them as tools to help someone like myself improve with racing and to make it a better experience overall. Now, of course, if it's a league race or there's something where there are rules against having it, of course I'm not going to use them, because that would be cheating if it's against the rules. But there are no rules saying you can't use this software. On iRacing, plenty of people do it. Unless they make it an actual rule or a regulation where you're not allowed to at all. I see it as a tool, not a cheating. Not like a cheat thing, way to cheat. There's words. Words are hard. Now I don't use it in F1 because F1 pretty much already has stuff like this built into the game already. touch on the session again. At this point, I've already set my fastest lap of the session. You'll see in the top right that my fastest time, I'm highlighted there in yellow. It was like that 106.950 or something like that. This is where I started struggling a little more. The car felt a little different, like that extra fuel actually added a little too much weight, where I was having trouble getting through turn 1, as you can see here, without going off track. And as my lovely crew chief, which is another program that I use, it's called Crew Chief. Basically, they can kind of tell you things. You can actually talk to your crew chief or your spotter if you have a microphone or anything. And you can ask them stuff like the distance or the time or gap to the car ahead, behind, all that kind of stuff. But mainly, I use it just to let me know like my track times and if I have a car on my left or right. And just simple stuff like that. Just because sometimes it doesn't quite understand commands. Because you can even tell it, like on a pit stop, to, let's say, only change the left side tires or something like that. But like I said, sometimes it doesn't understand. Like you have to say it in a very specific way or a very specific phrase in order for it to actually understand what you mean and what you want. Because I've had it happen before where I have asked it to only fuel a certain amount, but then it fuels all the way. And once it starts doing that, you can't really just abort your pit stop mid-pit stop while they're doing fuel and stuff. So I don't really use it for that as much anymore. But it's pretty fun to use sometimes, because it can actually really help in a race if you don't use things like the blind spot monitors and all that, or if you just want to hear occasional updates on the race or who set the fastest lap and stuff like that. You don't do that. What kind of series do you guys run? Let me know in the comments if you guys do iRacing or Settle Corsa or F1, whatever. If you're still listening thus far, let me know if you race iRacing, F1, Settle Corsa, whatever. Because I do have F1, I do have a Settle Corsa, the first and second one, and iRacing. So let me know which one you use. And for iRacing, for you iRacing folks, let me know which series you like to run. And if it's one that I do have the car or the track or anything for, I would definitely be up for doing some practice with some of you guys, or doing a couple of races or something.
Okay, Jacob, we need to watch watch these track limits.
I haven't actually raced with like anyone I know or anything like that in a long time. I used to race with a guy that I used to work at Hyundai with. That was pretty fun. Yeah, let me know what you guys race. It's amazing how good water can taste after you've had something that's very salty, such as these plain like Ruffles chips. I like a salty dip. Also, here's another question, if you guys want to answer it. What is your favorite circuit, track, whatever you want to call it? What is your favorite one to race on, and why? Like for me, I love racing at Spa, as well as the Le Mans circuit. Le Mans is a very exciting circuit for me to play on, or race on, rather. I've raced there a couple of times, and historically, I've done pretty well. There's a race over on my other channel called Savvy Simracing. Where you can see that I raced at the Le Mans in the Ferrari GT Evo. I think I started in like P14 and then finished in 7th. So it's pretty fun. I love Le Mans because of the two major like straights. I think it'd be like turn like 8 or 9 that goes into them. I can't even remember. But there's like the big long straight that comes into the little chicane, where you go around to the right and come back to the left, and then you're on another big straight. Then take the second chicane on the left, and then you're into a big, long right hand. It's just lots of big straights for lots of speed and exciting passing opportunities. But I also love Spa for, well, it's a historic track, but when you go through like Eau Rouge and Radion, and just it's such an exciting track to race. I don't know how you can be like a racing driver or a sim racer or whatever and not like Spa in some way. I'm sure people probably can, but that's just what I think. That guy kind of caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting headlights to be facing me, coming from the left. So at first I thought he might have been like coming back onto the track. And it kind of caught me off guard, so I kind of lost focus and went a little wide. Coming through turn 1. One opinion that I have that might be somewhat controversial, or it may not be. Depends on who you're talking to. But I am not a fan of Monaco at all. I am one of those people who think that Monaco is basically just an oversized go-kart track. And pretty well that wherever you qualify is pretty well where you're going to finish, unless you have some catastrophic failure or screw up in the pits. It's not a great track for overtaking, and it's not a very exciting race. I know it is historic, and it is basically like the Las Vegas of the European F1 circuits. But it's not for me. So, we're going to be coming closer to the end of the session here now. I don't end up going back out on track after this. But what we are going to do is attempt to go back and watch my fastest lap, which was lap 14. At first I kind of made the mistake because it was kind of confusing, because I clicked back when I was trying to find lap 14, and when I selected lap 14, it starts right at the end of the lap, so it went immediately into lap 15, because I immediately recognized that when on lap 15 the car ahead of me ran wide and went off the track a bit, so I had to slow down, try to miss him, so I knew that wasn't going to be my fastest lap. Like, as you can see here, I wanted to go back and figure out which one was fastest. Right there, it says 14. So we're going to pause and click all the way back through. I thought this was going to be starting at the beginning of every lap. So I click on 14 and click start. And then immediately realize that, nope, this is not lap 14, this is lap 15. Because the car was ahead of me. So I kind of got a little confused. I was like, no, this isn't going to be... like, see, he ran... Well, for whatever reason, he just kind of abandoned his lap because he saw me behind and got a little scared, I guess. I don't know. So we go back to 13. Then I figure out that, okay, this is it. So this is our flying fastest lap. That we set the 106 point, it's like 9. But while you guys enjoy this, I'm going to do my little sign-off kind of thing and just let you guys enjoy. So, thank you so much for watching. If you stayed through the whole video, that means a lot to me. It really helps the channel out because it's getting my watch hours up, which I need to be able to look at getting a YouTube membership so I can start giving special perks and selling merch and stuff like that. So thank you so much. Consider liking, commenting, subscribing if you enjoyed the video. It always helps a ton. And as always, we will see you in the next video. And remember,